August 18th, 1993. It's 3 days before the running of the annual Pikes Peak Marathon.
The Pikes Peak Ascent is a foot race up along Bar Trail up to the top of Pikes Peak.
For runners, it's a big deal, and you're getting a lot of people coming in from out of state to run that Pikes Peak Marathon.
That evening, as the sun sets over the mountain, it's easy to see why the race draws so many visitors to Colorado Springs.
It was one of those absolutely beautiful summer nights in Colorado Springs. You walked outside and you went, this is heaven.
But this picture-perfect scene is about to be ripped apart in the most violent way imaginable. In a shopping center not far from Pikes Peak, assistant manager Joe Bricardo works the counter at a local drugstore.
I was working with a customer over in the camera department.
Suddenly, a man bursts through the door in a state of panic.
Somebody's been shot.
Call 911 right now.
I'm a deputy with the Sheriff's Department.
The lady I was helping identified herself as an off-duty sheriff's deputy, and she came out as well.
Don't touch him.
When they reach the victim, he's lying on his back. It's clear he's been shot in the chest. The off-duty deputy kneels down to check his vitals.
I'm not getting anything.
She felt for a pulse and did not find one.
Joe Bricardo tries his best to comfort the wounded man, but he's fading fast.
He was definitely in a deep sense of shock. I said that we're going to do everything we can to help you.
While the victim clings to life, sirens blare as paramedics race to the scene. Across town, Lt.Joe Kenda is ready to call it a day.
I had just gotten home. It had been a long day at the office. I was going to sit down and get something to eat when the phone rang.
The moment Kenda answers,
Hello?
he realizes dinner will have to wait. On the line is dispatch. There's been a shooting.
Where is it? I'll be right there.
The neighborhood was a commercial district, certainly not a high-crime area.
By the time Kenda arrives at the scene, paramedics have already rushed the victim to the hospital, and a small crowd has gathered in the parking lot.
Hey folks, you mind making a hole here?
Excuse me.
Hey Lieutenant.
How you doing?
All right.
What do we got?
White male, shot possibly twice.
My first mission when I get there is to speak to the first uniformed officers on the scene. What can you tell me?
We've got a couple of people that were in the pharmacy, say they didn't see anything. We've got another guy saying he thinks it was a drive-by, but he hasn't given us a whole lot to go on.
How old was the victim?
He looked to be mid-70s maybe.
A 70-year-old man? I can't picture a 70-year-old man being a gangbanger.
Kenda scans the scene and notices a number of cars parked in the surrounding lot.
Which one of these vehicles is his?
We haven't found a vehicle in the parking lot that goes with him.
You've checked them all.
Yes, sir.
There are no cars unaccounted for. So he apparently is walking, either in this area or to and from this business, when he is somehow contacted and shot.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Why is he on foot? Why isn't there a car here that belongs to this person?
This is where the witnesses found the victim. His feet were this direction, his head was over here, and laying on his back, he had a single bullet wound to his chest.
Okay.
We are able to locate a small blood stain on the asphalt in the immediate vicinity where the victim was.
And then we were able to locate one shell casing.
What caliber is it?
It was a 25 caliber.
I look at that bloodstain and look at that small bullet casing, and my first thought is, uh-oh, this is going to be a homicide. If you're shot with a high-energy, large-caliber handgun, it's going to punch a hole in one side and punch a hole in the other side. Small caliber is a whole different problem. They are low energy, low velocity, enough punch to enter, but once that bullet's in your chest, it's in for the grand tour. It is a nightmare for a surgeon. He can't possibly repair the structure damage fast enough. They're almost always fatal. Almost always.
As Kenda examines the shell casing, another piece of evidence catches his eye.
About 20 yards north of the bloodstain are 17 condoms.
Loose condoms, individually wrapped. They were multicolored.
That's a lot of condoms. What are they doing here? You've got a .25 caliber casing and a small bloodstain. You have an elderly man who's apparently been shot to death in front of a drugstore in a no-crime area at 9 o'clock at night, and there's 17 condoms in the parking lot. What does this translate to? I haven't got a clue.
A6 to Lieutenant Kenda.
Kenda tries to make sense of this bizarre scene when he gets a call from one of his men.
Go ahead for Lieutenant Kenda.
Sir, I'm at the hospital. That
Victim from the pharmacy shooting, he's been pronounced dead.
With the case now officially a homicide, the question of motive looms larger than ever.
The first officers in the scene assume personal robbery because of the location. That's entirely possible.
Do you have any belongings on this person?
10-4, he had
A wallet and a set of keys on him.
Can you check the contents of the wallet?
there's a small amount of cash.
Credit cards, that kind of thing.
Well, I expect him to tell me that he's got nothing. He's got no wallet, no money, no ID. I'm really surprised to learn he's got everything. Well, that's not a robbery.
The notion of a deadly armed robbery may be off the table, but the victim's wallet does provide new evidence.
Anything else that might help identify where he came from?
Sure, I got an Arkansas driver's license for a Robert Elsher.
He has an Arkansas driver's license. His name is Robert L. Elshire. So he's 1,000 miles from home at 9 o'clock at night. How did he get here? How did he get here?
It's just before midnight on August 18th, 1993, 3 days before the running of the annual Pikes Peak Marathon. As the athletes rest up for the difficult ascent, Lt.Joe Kenda and his team stand in the middle of a parking lot turned crime scene, wondering who shot and killed 71-year-old Robert Elshire and why.
I get a call from a detective at the hospital. Everything in his wallet says he's from the state of Arkansas, including his driver's license. How did he get here?
Sifting through the contents of Robert Elshire's wallet, one of Kenda's men makes a discovery that might answer that question.
Oh wait, there's a business card here for a condominium complex just a couple blocks away.
10-4, I'm gonna need you and Detective Ritz to go over there, take a look around, see what you find, and report back to me.
10-4.
In search of the victim's vehicle, a pair of Kenda's men make their way to the condo complex.
Arkansas over here, partner.
Moments later, they find what they're looking for.
They do find a pickup truck with Arkansas plates. They run a listing on a handheld radio with the comm center, and it comes back to Robert L. and Helen Elshire. That's the truck.
Detectives shine their flashlights inside the vehicle, looking for clues. But their search is cut short.
Robert?
On the second floor, a woman says, "Robert, is that you?"
Ma'am, we're with the Colorado Springs Police Department. Do you know a Robert Elshire?
Yes, that's my husband. What's happened?
Do you mind if we come up and have a word?
The woman identifies herself as Helen Elshire, Robert Elshire's wife.
She sees them approaching and puts her hand over her mouth and says, "Oh God, what has happened?" Because these aren't just policemen, they're policemen in suits.
What happened?
Ma'am, did I understand you correctly? You're Robert's wife?
Yes, I'm Helen Elshire. What happened to Robert?
Obviously, at that point, we are really bound to tell her that her husband is deceased.
We're sorry to inform you that your husband has passed away.
She collapses in his arms. It's the grief reaction that you dread witnessing, but you witness every time.
How could something like this happen? Especially when you've always tried to live your life to be a good person, to do for others, which my father and mother did over and over again.
Detectives try to give Helen Elshire time to process the terrible news, but the clock is ticking.
There's a killer on the loose. We need information from Helen Elshire, and we need it right now.
I know this is difficult, man, but if you could just answer a few of our questions, it would really help out with the investigation.
We try to find out why they're in Colorado Springs.
What brings you to Colorado?
Oh, we come every year. My husband loves to run the Pikes Peak Marathon.
She explains that her husband, Robert, is an avid runner, and it is his habit to come to Colorado Springs to run the Pikes Peak Marathon.
Always, Mom would be there with him, and she'd be at the top of the mountain waiting for him to arrive.
Helen informs detectives that earlier that evening, she came down with a splitting headache.
I just cannot get rid of this headache.
Yeah? I'll go get you something.
Be careful.
There was a drugstore nearby, and he's like, honey, I'll go pick up some medicine for you. And it was a nice summer night. He was an athletic man, so he probably was just enjoying walking over there.
According to Helen, not long after Robert left, she heard sirens and got a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach.
She didn't know what it was or if it pertained to anything to do with my father, but she felt uncomfortable.
Sadly, Helen's instincts were correct.
Robert Elshire is a retired electrician, 71 years old. He represents what America is supposed to be. You have a wife and 4 wonderful children. What better guy could there be than Robert Elshire? His only crime is to walk up a street trying to buy some medication for his wife.
If you can think of anything else, please give us a call. I'm so sorry for your loss. We'll show ourselves out.
Thank you.
Who would want a man like Robert Elshire dead? A fellow marathon runner with an axe to grind? Or perhaps someone from Robert's life back in Arkansas? Neither one of these theories sit well with Kenda.
You begin to wonder, where can we go? Who can we talk to? All you're looking for is a new idea. Every murder case has a point of despair, and sometimes that repeats. We're no closer to catching this guy than we were when we arrived on this scene.
But no sooner has doubt set in than an eyewitness steps forward with game-changing information.
I'm Detective Kenda.
Her name is Julie Canfield Shandy.
You know something about this?
I might know something that happened earlier that might be related.
According to Julie, just moments after the shooting, she had a strange and nearly fatal encounter on the road adjacent to the drugstore parking lot.
All of a sudden, this kid comes running out of nowhere in the middle of the street.
She says a kid runs in front of her car to the point to where she has to slam on the brakes because she almost hits him. He looks at her and she looks at him.
She described this party as Hispanic and that he was wearing a pair of gray pants at the time.
She's absolutely certain that they're gray.
Did you get a good look at him?
I got a pretty good look at him. He kind of stopped right in front of my car.
He runs across the street and embraces a second person, who she says is another kid, about his age, 15 or 16, but she doesn't get a good look at him.
And the two of them took off running towards the apartment complex just east of this location.
Armed with this information,
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Kenda takes another look at the pile of condoms and is struck with an idea.
Do they sell these in that drugstore? I didn't think anybody bought them in there. I thought they could have been stolen from there. Shoplifted. So I go to the drugstore and I contact the assistant manager.
you sell these in your store?
No, sir, not those kind.
I show him these condoms. Do you sell those in your store? No, I don't, but I've seen them before.
And I had 3 kids coming in, probably.
That's when assistant manager Joe Bricardo tells Kenda the story of another odd encounter, one he had in the store a few hours earlier.
3 young men came in the store. One was African American and 2 were Hispanic. The African American and the older Hispanic were probably about 16 or 17, and the younger one was probably 12 years old.
The black kid's got a really wicked scar on the left side of his face. A serious, apparent, obvious scar. Okay.
According to Joe Bricardo, after entering the store, he noticed the 3 boys were carrying something unusual.
They had a number of condoms with them, and they wanted to make sure we didn't think that they were stealing them.
Okay.
So I told them to put everything in a bag and we'll keep it behind the counter.
Right here.
Joe Bricardo tells Kenda that he asked the boys where they got all the condoms.
Well, there's an alcohol treatment center, and we took them out of there.
We did keep a little bit of a close eye on them because they seemed a little bit suspicious. After they did their shopping, they did come back up to the front cashier and ask for their bag back with the condoms, and I gave it to them. I just kind of made a joke.
Planning on having a big weekend?
No.
Not really. All right, have a nice day.
They left the store, and that was the last of it.
It's an unusual story, but Joe Bricardo's description of the condoms is a match for the ones found near the crime scene.
Now I can connect those condoms to a Hispanic male who's 15 or 16, just like Julie saw. Are these my shooters? They certainly could be.
Listen up. We need all available units to set up a 20-block perimeter at every intersection. Check everything coming in or out.
Yes,
all
sir.
right, let's get to it.
Because of the time frame, I tell the patrol supervisor I want 20 blocks. Now, you say to yourself, well, a person can run pretty far in a few minutes. Yeah, they can. But humans don't continue to run. They get tired, they get frightened, they want to see if they're being followed. 20 blocks should be more than enough. If these people are still on foot, you're basically building a fishing net, and you're slowly going to pull the string. You catch a lot of fish, but you throw a lot of fish back.
Within minutes, Kenda's dragnet snags its first catch.
How you doing?
Keep on driving.
Come on, get the hood, come on. Come on. Have a seat, watch your head.
63 to Lieutenant Kenda.
Moments later, Kenda is notified that patrolmen have a young male in custody who matches the description of one of his suspects.
I've got a possible homicide suspect, the Hispanic male wearing the black jacket.
Blue jeans and white sneakers.
Good, take him to the station. I'm on my way.
We find a guy. He's a Hispanic male. He's 17 years old. They asked him where he's been. He names the liquor store in the complex where our victim was shot. He's not a throwback. He's a keeper.
Just days before the Pikes Peak Marathon, 71-year-old runner Robert Elshire has been gunned down in a shopping center parking lot in Colorado Springs. After setting up a 20-block perimeter around the crime scene, Lt.Joe Kenda has reeled in a promising suspect.
We find a guy named Jerry Chavez. He's a Hispanic male. He's 17 years old. He's evasive, and he's wanted on warrants. Oh, I like him. So him I think we'll keep.
Jerry Chavez fits the general description of one of the young men identified by drugstore manager Joe Bricardo and motorist Julie Canfield Shandy.
They asked him where he's been. He names the liquor store in the complex where our victim was shot. That's excellent. So you're telling us you were there?
Detectives escort Jerry Chavez down to the station. A few minutes later, Kenda joins him in the interrogation room.
Jerry, right?
Yeah.
His initial attitude is basically drop dead. He's a typical unhappy customer. He hates the police. He doesn't mind telling you that.
Jerry, why don't you tell me what you were doing in that neighborhood where they picked you up?
I was going to the liquor store.
Kenda puts up with Chavez's bad attitude for a minute, then informs him he's being questioned in connection to a homicide.
Well, the reason you're here, Jerry, is because there was a homicide in that shopping complex.
A what?
His whole demeanor changes. That scares him, because he knows that that's trouble that doesn't stop.
A murder. And I got a feeling you know something about that.
No, I don't.
He puts two and two together and says, wait a minute, I was in a different liquor store. He's already changing his story, not even in response to questions. He's a suspicious guy. Is he our guy? I don't know, but I certainly don't know that he isn't. So we need to look into him further.
Kenda decides the best thing to do at this point is to turn Jerry Chavez over to the crime lab.
Well, here's what we're gonna do, Jerry. I'm gonna take your clothes. I'm gonna have them tested for gunshot residue and blood spatter.
Man, whatever you need to do.
You okay with that?
I didn't do this.
All right, stand up and take them off.
We're gonna test you for gunshot residue on your hands. We're gonna inspect your clothes. We're looking for high-velocity blood spatter.
Lab techs run Jerry Chavez's clothes and hands through the GSR kit, but the tests come back negative, and Kenda has no choice but to cut his petulant suspect loose.
Jerry's a jerk, but being an asshole is not against the law. If it were, we'd have to erect a fence around the state of Colorado and inform everyone they're in custody. We have to go with what we can prove, and right now we can't prove much.
With Jerry Chavez off the hook, Kenda waits patiently as officers working his perimeter inch their way closer to the crime scene. But after hours of searching, they're no closer to apprehending their suspects. So Kenda decides it's time to call in the big dogs, or to be more accurate, the big dog, a canine officer named Axe.
A dog is used by law enforcement agencies as a sophisticated tool. We have one dog that's a tracking dog. His whole mission in life is to track scents.
Kenda hopes Axe can help determine which direction the perpetrator or perpetrators fled once they shot Robert Elshire. It doesn't take long for Axe to hit pay dirt.
He picks up a scent and starts to track north. Now, our witness Julie says our guy is north of the scene running across the street, and this dog is headed in that direction like a torpedo.
Axe leads Kenda and his men to an apartment complex, 53 yards away. Then, without warning, Axe stops dead in his tracks.
He stops near a bush and sits down. It's an alert signal. There's something here, guys. We look under this bush, and there is a Ruger target pistol, Mark I. It hasn't been thrown under this bush, it's been placed there.
Kenda orders officers to collect the weapon and move on, following their canine's lead.
The dog continues to work the scent. There's an 8-foot wooden fence separating this complex from private homes. And what's there on the ground?
We got more condoms.
8 more condoms. Same ones, same brand. So this is no question. These are the guys from the parking lot. There's our condoms.
Then, in an instant, Axe's ears perk up. Officers notice 2 figures moving in the shadows.
Police, step out where I can see you!
2 kids come out of the area where we found the first gun.
Police canine, stop or release the dog!
He challenges them with the dog. Now the dog is going bananas. Everybody's afraid of dogs.
Now move, hands on your head!
They stop dead in their tracks.
Kenda approaches the young men to get a better look.
These 2 individuals both roughly fit the description. One is a Hispanic male. He says he's 17. His name is Alan Lucero. His friend, his name is Damian Nicholas. Damian says that he is 17 years old.
What are you guys doing here?
It appears Kenda has found his suspects. But as he examines the boys more closely, he notices some discrepancies between their appearance and the eyewitness descriptions he's been given.
We're looking for a black male with a severe scar on the left side of his face. Damien is a black male. He does not have a scar on his face. We're looking for a Hispanic male in gray pants.
They're in the right location, they're same physical build, but we don't have anything to say they're actual suspects. So we treat them as witnesses.
After hauling the boys downtown and placing them in separate interrogation rooms, Kenda and Detective Brian Ritz start with Damien Nicholas, who seems eager to cooperate.
Damien is friendly. Damien's a nice-looking kid. Seems not nervous at all, not the least bit upset. Wants to be helpful to the police.
You didn't happen to go to the drugstore tonight, did you?
No, not to the drugstore.
You didn't? Can you tell me what you did tonight?
Well, what I did is, me and Alan, we were with my girl all night.
Damien explains that he and Alan spent most of their night watching movies at the home of his girlfriend, Vita Mays. After that, the two boys left.
So they were walking back when the officers came across them.
And when we seen you guys, we also seen the dog. And we were just scared, so we just started running.
Damien is providing me very plausible information. He's very forthcoming. His detail is fairly good. It's enough to where I began to question whether or not he was actually involved in this crime.
All right. Stay put for a little bit.
But before Kenda will release Damien, he wants to sit down with Damien's friend, Alan Lucero, who wastes no time contradicting his friend's sworn statement.
What can you tell me about this shooting outside of the pharmacy?
Maybe I know who did it.
Well, you say maybe. What's maybe mean? If you think you know who did it, then you better tell me.
"71-year-old retiree Robert Elshire was in town to run the annual Pikes Peak Marathon. But on a late-night walk to buy aspirin for his wife, he was viciously gunned down in a shopping center parking lot.
You just get sick to your stomach that these people come here to Colorado to enjoy the beauty of the Rocky Mountains and wind up in the middle of this nightmare.
Thanks to the help of a trusted canine officer, Lt.Joe Kenda has tracked down two potential suspects.
Don't move, hands on your head!
17-year-old Alan Lucero and 17-year-old Damien Nicholas.
So they don't closely match these people that we believe we're looking for, but they are in this area, and it's worthy enough to speak to them about what they may know.
After questioning Damien Nicholas, Kenda is all but convinced these young men aren't the guys he's looking for. But when he questions Alan Lucero,
what can you tell me about this shooting outside of the pharmacy?
Alan makes a shocking revelation.
Maybe I know who did it.
What's maybe mean?
I do know. It's Damien Nicholas.
He says his friend, Damien, shot and killed Robert Elshire.
Can you tell me about it?
Started off, we were at his girlfriend Vita's house.
According to Alan, around 8 o'clock, he and Damien left Vita's house and headed over to the Valley High Shopping Center, where Damien got an idea.
He needed some money. He had a gun. He had more than one gun, and he was going to see if he could find somebody to rob.
Alan walked across the street to wait for Damien. Moments later,
give me money.
He heard a gunshot and saw his friend running towards him.
All of a sudden, he comes running back across the street, says he shot the dude, and we better run. And we ran. I had a gun, I put it under the bush. It was a .22, and he had a .25 auto, and he had a .380. He had two guns, and we threw them in a yard in the neighborhood.
Alan Lucero's story seems to gel with the evidence, but there's one unexplained detail that's still nagging at Kenda.
We found a bunch of condoms in the parking lot and more by the fence. What's up with that?
They were just in the parking lot. I guess they fell out as we were running.
That's when Kenda has an epiphany.
We find out in all probability we have different individuals. Alan Lucero and Damian Nicholas were not the same individuals that had walked in with the condoms when they went into that store.
For Kenda, now comes the hard part, verifying Lucero's version of events.
You say, Alan, that you know where these other 2 guns are. Yes, I do. Show us where they are.
And you can take us to them?
I can.
All right, let's go.
All right.
Alan Lucero leads Kenda and his team back to the apartment complex where he and Damian were initially picked up.
He pointed out where one gun was hidden. That was the gun we'd already recovered. He also pointed out the location where they threw some guns over the fence.
Officer, do you mind going around checking?
We recovered 2 separate weapons from that, one which we believed was possibly the murder weapon.
With the likely murder weapon in hand, Kenda returns to the station, now fairly certain the cooperative, cool-headed Damian Nicholas has been feeding him a pack of lies.
It's about time you start telling us the truth.
What do you mean?
The truth, not that same bull story you already gave us.
And now we confront Damian.
That is the truth. That's what happened.
Damian denies everything, sticks to his initial story. We say, Damian, you're not listening. This is your friend, and he is naming you as the person responsible.
Your boy Alan gave you up.
In addition to naming you, he just sent our officers out with him to find a murder weapon, and they came back here with it. That's a big problem, don't you think, Damian?
It's in that moment that Damian's calm, collected demeanor comes crashing down.
Damian finally just breaks down and says, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Why is he ratting me out? I didn't shoot anybody. Alan shot somebody.
So now Alan's the one that did this?
Yes, Alan was the one who shot him.
Kenda's prime suspects have just turned on each other, and though Kenda suspects one of them murdered Robert Elshire, the question now is which one?
It's annoying that we have to play this game to get to the truth. I'm good at the game.
And you have some way you can back this up? You can prove this to us?
Kenda pushes Damian for details that might support his version of the story.
There's some gray pants.
You'll find a pair of pants at my girlfriend's house that Alan was wearing. You get them and bring them here, and you'll see that they don't fit me. I wasn't wearing them.
You can even try them on me. They're not mine. They're his.
Those are Alan's pants?
Yes.
Eyewitness Julie Canfield Shandy identified the shooter as wearing a pair of gray pants the night of the crime. If Damian is telling the truth, this could be the evidence Kenda has been looking for.
Okay, Damian. We'll be back.
As the sun begins to rise over Colorado Springs, Kenda's men pound on the front door of a nearby residence. A man answers the door.
Morning. What can I help you, sir? Colorado Springs detectives.
It's the father of Damian's girlfriend, Vita Mays.
Do you mind if we come in and talk to her? Of course, come in.
Her father is more distressed than she is. She's more interested in the standard juvenile code of silence. Never tell an adult the truth.
Do you know a Damien?
No. I don't know what you're talking about.
Damien, your boyfriend?
Refusing to play her game, Kenda peppers Vita with questions.
The reason we're here is because your boyfriend Damien and his friend Alan are in a lot of trouble.
Look, I don't know anything.
Eventually, Vita starts to crack.
Damien's your boyfriend, correct?
Yes.
And he was here last night.
Yeah, he came over.
Then you know his friend Alan Lucero. Well, yeah, I know Alan. Great, because they were here last night.
Tell me what happened.
Vita tells Kenda that she, Damian, and Alan all watched the movie at her place.
And did they leave at any point?
They went to go play basketball.
According to Vita, after the movie was over,
You ready to get out of here?
Yeah.
Damian and Alan left, but then returned a few hours later.
What happened when they came back?
They were really sweaty, and so they changed clothes.
At that point, Damian asked Vita to hold on to his gym bag. Then he and Alan headed back out into the night.
Is that bag here? Well, yeah, that black bag there on the floor, that's Damian's bag. Good.
Go ahead and open it.
We open the bag. There's a box of 25 auto ammunition. We're looking around the bag. There's a pair of gray pants. Whose pants are those? Those are Alan's.
When did you leave him here?
Last night.
So these are the pants that he was wearing?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
This gray pair of pants had some shell casings or live rounds, 25 caliber, in the pockets. Another piece of evidence that ties everything to our scene.
Detectives collect the evidence and deliver it to headquarters for processing, except for the gray pants. Kenda takes those back to the interrogation room where Alan Lucero is being held.
Recognize these, Alan?
No.
And throws them at his suspect.
Try them out.
Right now? Yeah, right now. Put them on.
Lt.Joe Kenda is sitting in an interrogation room across from 17-year-old Alan Lucero. Lucero, along with his friend Damian Nicholas, are the prime suspects in the shooting death of 71-year-old marathon runner Robert Elshire. Both young men claim the other is responsible.
Why is he ratting me out? I didn't shoot anybody.
Now we have the ultimate problem. We have two perpetrators accusing each other.
Kenda's men have discovered a pair of gray pants that Damian and his girlfriend claim Alan Lucero was wearing the night of the murder. Pants that match a description of the shooter given by eyewitness Julie Canfield Shandy. Kenda decides to use this evidence as a chance to play hardball with Alan Lucero.
These aren't your pants?
I tell you what, Alan, try these on. And I threw them at him.
Try them out.
Right now? Yeah, right now. Put them on. He puts them on, they of course fit perfectly. It's amazing, isn't it, Alan?
With the gray pants, the discovery of the likely murder weapon, and Julie Canfield Shandy's eyewitness account, Kenda is ready to charge Alan Lucero with the murder of Robert Elshire.
We've got a very good circumstantial case against these people. I want it much tighter than that. I need a statement. Tell me you did this.
Unfortunately, Alan Lucero's age complicates the situation.
Alan is under 18, which means legally he is a child, which means his parents are required before we can take a legal statement.
Before we start, I need to inform you of your rights. You have the right to remain silent.
Alan's mother's in tears, so is his father. Not Alan, just the parents.
Alan's mother and father urge their son to tell the truth. Alan sticks to his original story.
I need you to tell me why you shot that man.
I didn't. Damian did.
Lucero, like all other kids his age, they present this attitude of they're bad guys and they're not afraid of the police, but in reality they are.
Kenda counts on this fear to get his confession.
Do you remember when you ran across the street and almost got hit by a car? And you stopped right in front of that car? Do you remember that, Alan? And he looks at us and he says,
Did she see my face?
Yeah, Alan, she saw your face. And you see it. He is cornered now. He's absolutely cornered.
I shot him.
When you finally get to the truth, makes you feel very good.
Alan explains his family had recently fallen on hard financial times, and he committed the crime to help pay the bills and keep from being evicted. But at this point, Kenda's no longer concerned with the why so much as the how.
We asked Alan where he came by these weapons, and he said Damian had all three of them.
According to Alan, on the night of the murder, he asked Damian if he'd help him pull off an armed robbery.
You ready? Yeah, man. Let's go.
Damian agreed, and after leaving Vita May's house, they camped out in the drugstore parking lot, scoping out potential victims.
They actually had waited outside this drugstore, and nobody was coming out.
So Damian went to the other side of the street to wait, but I stayed there.
Moments later, Alan spotted Robert Elshire making his way toward the drugstore.
A guy came around and I tapped him on the shoulder.
Hey, give me your money.
He took a swing at me, and I stepped back, and I said, I'm gonna shoot you, and I fired the gun. And he went down on the ground, And I screamed, "I'm sorry," at the top of my lungs. And then I ran.
Alan Lucero claims he was so shaken by what he'd done that he forgot to actually steal Robert Elshire's wallet. Once safely across the street, Alan hooked back up with Damian Nicholas.
They have this cockamamie juvenile scheme of hiding the guns and changing clothes and stumbling around in this neighborhood until they get picked up by the police.
When Kenda confronts Damian with Alan's confession, he confirms the story. Both boys are charged as adults for first-degree murder.
Damian is a participant. He provides the weapons. He is a lookout at the time the incident occurs. In the law, eyes of the law, he's equally responsible.
Folks in Colorado Springs are shaken by this senseless crime. And when the Pikes Peak Marathon begins 2 days later, victim Robert Elshire is remembered by his fellow runners.
The race event coordinators decided that all of the runners in the race that day would wear a ribbon on their arm in memory of my dad.
The absolute most horrible part of this is Robert Elshire, a 71-year-old man who is in Colorado to run up a mountain because he likes to do it. And somebody takes his life for nothing.
At trial, Alan Lucero and Damian Nicholas are found guilty of first-degree murder. They are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
These people were kids. They decided to act like adults. And when you act like one, I'm going to treat you like one. They got what they deserved. That's what justice means. We weren't going to rest until we found these people. And we did.
Berkeley, 2002, midnight breathes cold against the bay, and the city looks like it's been dipped in ink. Street lamps flicker like tired witnesses. Somewhere behind curtained windows, radios hum, dogs shift, and a mother checks the lock twice without knowing why. Then a sound breaks the quiet, metal on concrete, a hurried footstep, the faintest choke of a cry, and the night swallows it whole. By morning, the headline is already forming in the air before anyone prints it: missing in Berkeley, no trace, no goodbyes, just a door left ajar. A door, a cup on the counter with lipstick at its rim, and a sense that the room itself is holding its breath. Her name is Maya Vance. 24. Graduate student. The kind of person professors describe as sharp, friends describe as warm, and strangers remember because she holds a gaze 1 second longer than most. She lives in a narrow, upstairs unit off a tree-lined street where bicycles lean like sleeping animals. Tuesday night, she studies late, sends an email, answers a call, short, clipped, nothing dramatic, and then she disappears as if someone edited her out of the world. No screaming. No shattered glass. No neighbors banging on walls. Just absence, clean and cruel. The first officer on scene steps into a space that feels staged, too calm. The air smells faintly of citrus cleaner and old paper. A stack of library books sits on the table like a promise unkept. Her laptop is open but asleep. Her keys are missing. Her purse is there, still heavy with coins and receipts, still holding a pepper spray canister clipped inside like a tiny talisman that never got used. On the sink is a damp sponge. On the stove, a pot sits cold, its lid slightly askew as if someone lifted it and forgot to put it back right. The bedroom is worse, because nothing is overturned, nothing screams, crime, yet the bed is rumpled as if she sat down, stood up, left mid-thought. A single earring rests near the edge of the dresser, separated from its pair, abandoned like a tiny white flag. They canvass. Neighbors remember hearing a car door. Or maybe it was a dumpster lid. Or maybe it was nothing at all. Berkeley is a city of sounds, sirens, laughter, skateboard wheels, late-night arguments about politics and philosophy, and sound becomes a liar once you ask it to testify. A few blocks away, a bartender remembers her ordering soda water and lime around 9. A classmate says she left the library around 10:30, backpack slung over one shoulder, walking like someone who knows the route so well she could do it with her eyes closed. That detail sits heavy in the room when detectives hear it. Eyes closed. Route known. That's where predators hide, in the places we stop being careful. Her phone stops transmitting at 11:12 p.m. Not dead, just gone. Not a final call, not a goodbye text. Gone like a light cut at the breaker. The early hours are chaos dressed as procedure. Patrol cars comb streets. Flashlights rake the edges of empty lots. Dogs sniff sidewalks and stop, circle, whine, then pull toward a busy intersection where scents tangle and collapse into confusion. Officers check parks, alleys, stairwells, the shadowy pockets under freeway ramps where the city's forgotten corners collect. The same question repeats, whispered and barked and written into reports. Where did she go? And as dawn bleeds into the sky, another question creeps in behind it like a second shadow. Who knew how to take her without a sound? Her family arrives fast, running on adrenaline and disbelief. Her father stands in the doorway as if he might block whatever stole his daughter from crossing back out. Her mother walks the apartment and touches objects like they can still hold heat from Maya's hands. Friends cluster in the hallway, voices low, eyes wide, whispering the word, kidnapped, like it's too terrible to say loud. The building manager hovers, apologizing, useless. On the street outside, someone has already started talking to a reporter. Cameras appear like crows. The detectives assigned are seasoned, but this case has teeth. In missing person investigations, time is oxygen, and the room is already filling with smoke. They begin where logic tells them to begin, routine, relationships, last known movements, yet nothing clicks into the easy shape of a domestic dispute or a planned runaway. Maya had finals. A stipend. A lab meeting in the morning. She had a friend's birthday next weekend. She had a new hiking plan scrawled in a notebook. She had a life that looked like it was moving forward, not a life preparing to vanish. Then the first man with a story arrives. His name is Aaron Pike. 27. A neighbor in the building behind hers, a person the street barely knows. He tells police he saw Maya around 10:45, walking alone, and he offered to walk her home because it was late. He says she declined politely, kept walking. He says he watched until she turned a corner, then he went inside. His story sounds helpful. Almost too helpful. He is calm, eager, the kind of calm that either means innocence or practice. When detectives ask how well he knew her, he shrugs. Just said hi sometimes. When they ask why he noticed her specifically, he smiles faintly and says, small neighborhood. You notice people. They write his name down. They don't erase it. By afternoon, the community is buzzing, and the buzz turns quickly into a roar. Flyers appear on poles. Missing, in bold black letters above Maya's photo, her hair dark, her smile soft, her eyes steady, the kind of photo that makes strangers feel like they failed her personally. Students march. Neighbors organize searches. Volunteers sweep through campus paths and creek beds, calling her name into brush that doesn't answer. The police set up a tip line, and the phones light up with everything, sightings that don't exist, rumors that grow like mold, the cruel prank call that makes an officer slam his fist onto a desk. Each tip is a thread. Most snap the moment you pull. And then, on day 3, something surfaces that changes the temperature of the room. A campus security camera catches a figure moving near a service road at 11:03 p.m., not clear, just a silhouette, but the posture is wrong. Shoulders hunched. Head turning too often. Not a student strolling. Not a jogger. A watcher. The figure stops near a parked car, then disappears out of frame. The car is a dark sedan, older model, license plate unreadable in the grainy footage. The timestamp is crisp, merciless. 11:03. 9 minutes before Maya's phone goes dark. The investigators lean closer. They play it again. And again. Each time, it looks like nothing, unlike everything. They pull traffic cams. They ask for surveillance from corner stores. They request access to footage from private buildings. In 2002, cameras are everywhere but not everywhere enough, and the resolution is a cruel joke. A dark blur becomes 1,000 theories. It's a man. It's a woman. It's two people. It's nobody. It's Maya. It's not. The truth hides behind pixels. They check her emails. A few are ordinary: lab notes, dinner plans, a reminder about rent. One message, however, is strange, sent weeks earlier from an address that doesn't match anyone in her contacts. The subject line is blank. The text is short: "We should talk." You know why. No signature. No follow-up. Maya never replied. Investigators traced the email to a public terminal at a library. No camera. No log. Just a ghost typing on a shared keyboard. And the city tightens. People look at each other longer. Women walk with keys threaded through fingers like claws. Parents demand escorts and lighting and patrols. The campus issues statements that sound like paper shields: "We are cooperating. We are committed. We encourage vigilance." But vigilance doesn't bring Maya back. Detectives dig into her circle. Her ex-boyfriend, Daniel, is questioned. He has an alibi: he was at a concert in Oakland with friends who can place him there. His hands tremble when he speaks, but grief can mimic guilt, and guilt can mimic grief. Maya's lab partner, Elise, is questioned. She cries, says Maya was stressed but excited. A professor is questioned. He looks offended, as if the accusation is more violent than the disappearance. They comb through the predictable suspects, but the case refuses to be predictable. Then the first physical clue arrives, and it arrives like a punch: a backpack found near the edge of a small park, less than a mile from Maya's apartment. Hers. The same brand her friends recognize, the same frayed strap she always complained about. It's placed beside a trash can, not thrown, not buried, placed. As if someone wanted it found. Or wanted it to look like they wanted it found. Inside are her notebooks, her pens, her student ID. No wallet. No phone. No keys. No obvious blood. But there's something else: a smear of mud on the bottom, and embedded in that mud, a thin filament, bright, synthetic, almost like fishing line. The kind of material that doesn't belong in a park unless someone brings it there. Crime tech lifts it carefully, seals it, labels it, and for a moment everyone feels the spark of possibility. Evidence. Something to hold. Something that might lead forward instead of spiraling in place. In the lab, the filament reveals tiny glittering flecks, industrial composite, the kind used in certain ropes and restraints. Not common, but not unique. It narrows nothing and everything. Detectives compile a list of stores that sell similar materials. Hardware shops. Marine supply stores. Sporting goods aisles. It's a net cast into an ocean. They go back to the backpack location and look for patterns. The path is a corridor of trees and dim benches. There's a lamppost nearby that doesn't work consistently, flickers, goes dark, flickers back. There are drag marks. Maybe. Or maybe it's just the way people cut across wet grass. They find cigarette butts. Soda cans. Footprints that have already been stepped on by half the neighborhood's good intentions. The search itself contaminates the scene. Everyone knows it. No one can stop. Desperation is louder than protocol. Days stretch. A week. 2. Her face stays on the news. Her name becomes a chant at vigils. Each new lead arrives with fanfare and collapses under scrutiny. A woman swears she saw Maya on a bus. Wrong girl. A man claims he gave Maya a ride. He's lying for attention. A psychic calls with a vision. It points nowhere. The only constant is the ache. And in that ache, the investigators start to notice something that makes their skin prickle. It's not just Maya. It's the shape of the disappearance, clean, controlled, silent, that echoes other reports in neighboring areas. Not identical, but similar enough to make seasoned detectives exchange a look that says, this might not be one case. In the past year, 2 women reported being followed near campus after dark. One described a dark sedan that crept behind her without headlights for a block before turning away. Another described a man who offered help too quickly, too smoothly, his voice gentle like a trap lined with velvet. The cases were filed, noted, never connected. Until now, when patterns start to rise like bruises. The task force grows. Profiles are discussed. A predator who knows the area. Someone comfortable moving at night. Someone who can approach without triggering a scream. Someone with confidence, or a uniform, or a mask of harmlessness. The phrase, serial, starts to appear in whispers, like a curse you're afraid to say aloud because saying it makes it real. And still, no Maya. There's a moment in every investigation when the noise fades and the room goes quiet, not because the case is solved, but because the case has shifted into something colder. A missing person case is a fire at first, urgent, bright, consuming. But when days turn into weeks, the fire becomes embers. The headlines shrink. The cameras move on. The community is left with a burned place in its chest. Maya's parents keep searching anyway. They hand out flyers until their fingers blister. They stand at intersections holding signs. They speak into microphones with voices that strain to stay steady. They learn the language of tragedy. Please, if you know anything, just come home. They call her phone and listen to it ring into nothing. And in a dim office filled with maps and timelines and coffee cups gone stale, detective pins a new photo to the board, the dark sedan from the security footage, enlarged until it becomes a blocky smear. Beside it, another photo, an earlier report, a witness sketch of a man with a neutral face, forgettable features, eyes that could belong to anyone. Above them, written in thick marker, a phrase that looks like a promise and a threat at the same time, Barkley 2002, cold case in the making. Because that's the terrifying truth the city doesn't want to accept yet. If Maya isn't found soon, the case will harden. Time will erase footprints. Rain will wash away residue. Memory will warp. People will move. People will die. And somewhere, whoever took her will learn the simplest lesson crime teaches: silence works. On the 19th night after she vanished, a tip comes in that makes every spine straighten. A man calls anonymously and says he saw something near the marina the same night Maya disappeared, 2 figures by the water, one struggling. He says he didn't call then because he didn't want trouble. He calls now because he can't sleep. He gives a location, then hangs up. Police rush out under a sky that feels too open, too empty, their lights cutting across pavement like blades. They search the shoreline, the rocks, the reeds. They find nothing but damp air and the sound of water lapping like a slow applause. Yet even without evidence, the call plants an image in the public mind that doesn't fade: Maya near the water, fighting, swallowed by the dark. And the dark, Barkley's dark, the dark of 1,000 nights since, holds on to its secret, letting the city build theories the way it builds fog, quietly, relentlessly, until you can't see your own hands in front of your face. The case file thickens. The board fills. The pressure rises. But the answer, the one thing everyone needs, the point where the story stops being a nightmare and becomes a conclusion, refuses to appear. And as the weeks grind on, as hope frays at the edges, a new kind of fear starts spreading through the streets, sharper than worry, heavier than grief, the fear that whatever happened to Maya didn't end with Maya, that it was practice, or pattern, or prelude, and that somewhere in the city's ordinary glow, someone is living an ordinary life with an extraordinary secret beating quietly inside their chest. The shoreline gives them nothing, but nothing has a weight of its own when you're chasing a person who has fallen off the map. The marina is all wind and salt and the soft clink of rigging against masts, a sound like teeth tapping in the dark, and the officers move with flashlights held low, sweeping beams over rocks slick with algae, over driftwood that looks like bones until you get close enough to see it's just wood, just dead tree, just another thing the water stole and returned. A canine handler kneels, clips the leash tighter, whispers to the dog like it's a partner who understands the stakes, and the animal noses the air, circles, then pulls toward a parking lot and stops hard, right at the edge of a storm drain, whining as if the scent drops into the concrete throat and vanishes into the city's veins. The detectives stand there, staring down into the black, listening to the distant rush of water under their feet, and you can almost feel the case trying to slip out of their hands again, trying to become a rumor, a story people tell at bars in hushed voices, the girl who disappeared, the night that ate her, the city that never got her back. One detective takes a marker and circles the drain on a map like he can trap the truth inside ink. Another calls Public Works. A third calls a supervisor and hears the exhaustion in his own voice when he asks for resources that don't exist in abundance: pumps, cameras, a crew. The midnight air tastes metallic, and the fog rolls in like it's trying to erase their footprints. By the next morning, the tip is everywhere. The anonymous caller becomes a phantom celebrity, talk radio host speculating, students dissecting, neighbors repeating it with embellishments they swear are facts. 2 figures. A struggle. By the water. It's vivid enough to scare, vague enough to be useless. The press parks vans near the marina, reporters speaking into microphones with measured urgency while gulls scream overhead like hecklers. Maya's parents arrive, drawn by hope they don't trust, and they stand at the edge of the lot, eyes scanning the water as if she might rise out of it like a miracle that lost its way. And then the drain gets opened. The crew lifts the grate, and a wave of smell hits: stagnant water, oil, rot, the sour breath of a city's underbelly, and the world beneath the street yawns open. A camera is lowered, a snaking lens with its own tiny light, pushing into the concrete tunnel. Everyone leans in as if proximity can coax a revelation. The screen flickers. Mud. Trash. A tennis ball. A crumpled fast food bag. Nothing human. The camera pushes farther. The tunnel bends. The view becomes a narrow throat of darkness, the light reflecting off wet walls like sweat. Still nothing. The technician shakes his head. The dog whines again, frustrated, as if the scent is there and not there, like perfume in a hallway long after someone has passed. No body. No phone. No keys. Just the drain, just the hint that Maya's last trace may have brushed this place like a hand against a wall and then slipped away into a deeper dark. The case pivots, not on evidence but on instinct. Someone took her. Someone moved her. The backpack placed by the park wasn't an accident, it was choreography. A message. A feint. Detectives begin to treat the city like a board game with a violent player, and each move is measured for intent. Why that park? Why that trash can? Why the missing wallet but not the student ID? Why silence when panic would have been louder? The questions become an engine that never stops, and every answer they chase opens into 2 more questions, like a hallway of doors that all lead to more hallway. They talk to Aaron Pike again. This time, it's not a friendly check-in. It's a room with fluorescent lights that flatten faces, a recorder on the table, and 2 detectives who have heard too many stories to be comforted by smooth voices. Aaron sits with his hands folded, posture careful, eyes too steady. He repeats his account with minor differences. 10:45 becomes 10:50. The corner she turned changes streets. The detective across from him doesn't interrupt, he just watches for the micro flinches, the places where memory and invention separate like oil and water. When asked why he didn't mention the dark sedan, Aaron says he never saw it. When asked whether he owns a car, he says no. When asked if he's ever been to the marina at night, he says he doesn't like the smell. Then they ask about rope. They don't say rope yet. They say outdoor gear. They say camping. They say sailing. And Aaron's expression flickers, just a spark, before he smooths it away. He says he's not into that. He says he's a computer guy. He says he barely goes outside. He laughs softly, like the idea is ridiculous, and he offers his hands for prints with a confidence that borders on relief. Let them check. Let them prove he's clean. The detectives take the prints. They take DNA with a swab. They take his shoes. He signs consent forms like he's signing for a package. When they search his place, it's immaculate in a way that feels defensive. No clutter. No mess. A place scrubbed of personality. A closet with clothes arranged by color. A bathroom without stray hairs in the sink. A trash bin lined with a fresh bag. They find nothing that screams crime. But they do find something that whispers, a spool of bright synthetic line tucked in a toolbox under the bed, the same sort of filament as the one embedded in the mud on Maya's backpack. Not identical, not provable, but close enough that the crime tech's eyes narrow. Aaron shrugs. Says he uses it for fixing things. Says he bought it at a hardware store months ago. Says it's common. Common. That word becomes a blade. Common means the city is full of people who could have bought it. Common means the filament isn't a fingerprint, it's a fog. The lab runs what it can. In 2002, forensic miracles exist in TV shows more than in real life, and reality is slow and stubborn. The backpack yields a partial print, too smeared to match. The filament yields nothing definitive. The swab from Aaron comes back, not a match to anything on file, not a smoking gun, not a clean bill of innocence either. A case like this doesn't give you the luxury of certainty. It gives you a handful of maybes and asks you to build a bridge across an abyss. While Aaron sits in his tidy apartment, the city grows tense in ways you can't measure. Women stop jogging at dusk. Students demand escorts and call the police non-emergency line for every shadow that moves wrong. Campus security increases patrols, and the patrol cars become rolling reminders that the danger might be close enough to breathe on you. Bar conversations shift. Doors slam harder. A neighborhood watch forms, and men in reflective vests walk the streets with flashlights and righteous anger, scanning faces as if the predator will politely present himself. Then another report hits, and this one lands like a thunderclap. A woman, 28, a visiting lecturer, calls police from her bathroom, voice shaking, and says someone tried to force his way into her home. She heard footsteps outside her kitchen window. She saw a silhouette. When she yelled, the person ran. She didn't see a face, but she saw the shape of the car parked down the block, an older dark sedan, engine idling without headlights. She gives an approximate model. She gives a partial plate, the first 3 characters, maybe. She's not sure. Fear blurs details like rain on glass. But it's something. Something with edges. Detectives cross-reference the partial plate with DMV records, and the list that spits out is long enough to make you want to throw the paper across the room. They start narrowing, cars registered within a 10-mile radius, owners with records, owners with addresses near Maya's route, owners with access to campus. It becomes a mosaic of names, and every name is a life, a job, a face, a family who will be stunned when cops knock. They knock anyway. They knock on doors in the hills where houses sit quiet behind hedges. They knock on doors in cramped apartments near Telegraph Avenue where music pulses through walls. They knock on doors in Oakland neighborhoods where people look at uniforms like trouble. They ask about alibis, about late nights, about driving by the marina, about seeing Maya. Most people answer with confusion. Some answer with anger. A few answer with fear that smells like guilt. One man, a mechanic named Lewis, fits too well on paper, prior arrest for assault, owns a dark sedan, lives near the park, and the detectives bring him in. He swears he's innocent. He says he was with his cousin. The cousin confirms. They check phone records. It holds. They check time cards from his shop. It holds. They search his garage and find ropes, straps, tools that could terrify in the wrong light, but in a mechanic's hands, they are just tools. They let him go, and he spits on the sidewalk outside the station and says the city is crazy. Crazy is the word everyone is using now, even if they don't say it out loud. Because the longer Maya stays missing, the more the case bends the community's mind. People start to imagine the worst because the worst explains the silence. They picture basements, vans, the dark under freeway ramps. They picture a stranger. They picture someone they know. Each version is a horror, and each version robs them of sleep. In the middle of this fever, a letter arrives. No return address. It's postmarked Oakland. The envelope is plain, the paper inside cheap. The writing is blocky, deliberate. Not a confession, not an admission, but a note that makes the detective holding it feel suddenly cold. It says, "Stop looking. She chose to leave. You won't find her." Underneath, a single sentence, "The water keeps secrets." The room goes still. They treat the letter like a bomb. Gloves. Bag. Evidence tape. The lab checks for prints, for saliva, for fibers. Nothing. The ink is generic. The paper is common. The postmark points to a mailbox near a busy intersection where hundreds of people drop mail daily. But the message is specific enough to crawl under your skin. The water keeps secrets. The marina. The drain. The anonymous tip. Coincidence is possible, but coincidence is also what criminals count on to hide inside. The detectives go back to the marina with divers. The water is cold and murky. Visibility is poor. Divers descend into a world of green darkness, their lights cutting narrow tunnels through floating sediment. They search around pilings, along rocks, near the mouth of the storm drain outlet. The surface team watches bubbles rise like anxious thoughts. Minutes stretch. An hour. 2. Divers come up shaking, stripping gear with stiff hands. They find shopping carts. They find a rusted bike. They find an old safe with nothing inside. They find nothing that answers the only question that matters. And then, as if the case is determined to torment them, another fragment appears in the least dramatic way possible. A jogger finds a keychain near the edge of a path by the creek. It's small, ordinary, a metal ring with a plastic tag from a campus gym. Myers. The jogger almost didn't notice it. Almost stepped over it. Almost let it stay in the dirt another week. The keychain doesn't come with keys. Just the tag, scuffed, smeared with grime, as if it traveled through hands and pockets and places it never belonged. The detectives hold it in their gloved fingers, turning it under light, seeing their own reflections warped in the plastic. Another placed object? Another breadcrumb? Or just something lost in the swirl of searches, dropped by a volunteer, kicked by a dog, carried by water? The case doesn't let them know which, and that uncertainty is its own cruelty. They start looking at the map differently. Myers' apartment. The park where the backpack was placed. The creek where the keychain turned up. The marina where the tip pointed. The points form a rough arc, a curve that could be a path or could be random. One detective draws a circle around them and says, quietly, "This is someone's comfort zone." Another shakes his head and says, "Or it's someone's game." The word game hangs in the air like smoke. They bring in behavioral specialists. They talk about control. About staging. About trophies, items taken not for value but for possession. Phone. Keys. Wallet. Tokens that say, "I had her. I moved her. I own a piece of her life now." They talk about taunting, letters, tips, objects placed to be found. They talk about escalation, because predators don't like to stop once they learn they can get away with something. And then, late one night, the hotline rings with a voice that makes the operator sit up straight. A man says his friend has been acting weird since Maya disappeared. The friend, he says the name like it burns his tongue, works in maintenance on campus, has access to keys, knows building layouts, knows where cameras are and where they aren't. The caller says the friend made a joke about girls who walk alone. The caller says he saw a dark sedan at the friend's place, and the friend doesn't have a license. The caller says he doesn't want to be involved, but he can't carry it anymore. He gives an address and hangs up before the operator can ask a single follow-up question. The detectives move fast. They hit the address before dawn, a small duplex with peeling paint and a yard littered with parts from machines that don't run anymore. They find the maintenance worker, Curtis Hall, asleep on a couch, TV still on, the blue light painting his face like a corpse. He looks surprised when they wake him. He looks annoyed. Then he looks scared when they say Maya's name. He denies knowing her. Denies joking. Denies everything. He says he's being framed, targeted, singled out because he's an easy suspect. He says he's never even been to the marina at night. They search the property. Behind the duplex is a shed, padlocked. Curtis claims he lost the key. They cut the lock. The door opens with a whine, and the smell that spills out is damp and chemical. Inside, cleaning supplies, old tools, coils of rope, duct tape, plastic sheeting. Not illegal. Not definitive. But the sight of it makes the younger officers swallow hard. In a corner, under a torp, they find a stack of gym tags, dozens. Some from campus. Some from nearby clubs. A collection that could be innocent if he scavenged trash, if he found them and kept them for no reason at all. But nobody keeps dozens of tags for no reason, not unless the reason lives in a darker part of the mind. They bag them. Photograph them. Handle them like they are radioactive. Curtis watches with a tight jaw, eyes darting, sweat beading at his temple. He starts talking fast, too fast. He says he collects lost items to return them. He says he's helpful. He says people are ungrateful. When detectives ask why none have been returned, he snaps and says they wouldn't appreciate it anyway. His anger flares, then collapses into a strange calm, like a wave that hits shore and falls back. They take him in. They run his prints. They run his DNA. They check his work logs. They check his access records, what little exists. They interview co-workers. Some say he's odd, quiet, doesn't look you in the eye. Others say he's harmless, just lonely. One co-worker mentions Curtis once showed up with scratches on his arms the week Maya vanished and blamed a fence. The detectives feel the case tightening around him. The community hears the rumor and explodes with it. Suspect in custody, campus worker linked to missing student. People want closure so badly they start writing the ending themselves. Maya's parents are told to stay calm, to wait for results, to remember that suspicion isn't proof. They nod, but their eyes say something else. Please. Please let this be it. Please let this nightmare have a face. The lab results take days that feel like years. When they come back with a kind of answer that doesn't satisfy anyone. Curtis's DNA does not match anything recovered from the backpack. His prints don't match the partial smear. There's no direct physical link to Maya. The gym tags. Most are from lost and found bins or discarded trash. Creepy, yes. Criminal, not necessarily. The rope and tape? Common. The shed? A shed. He's a man with poor boundaries and a habit of hoarding other people's leftovers, but the evidence won't let the detectives call him a kidnapper, no matter how badly the story wants him to be one. They release him. The backlash is immediate. People scream at the police. People scream at Curtis. People scream at each other. Someone sprays "Predator" on his fence. He stops showing up to work. He sits behind curtains, watching the street like it's hunting him now. The city has found another victim to chew on, and it's not Maya's abductor. The detectives return to their board, their map, their dwindling certainty. The dark sedan remains a blur. Aaron Pike remains a question mark with a spool of synthetic line under his bed. The letter remains a taunt with no fingerprints. The objects remain breadcrumbs without a trail. And somewhere in the spaces between streetlights and between stories, in the gaps where cameras don't watch, in the places where fear takes over and logic breaks, Maya's absence keeps expanding, not as a single void, but as a shadow that stretches across every late-night walk and every locked door in Berkeley, the kind of shadow that doesn't move like a normal shadow, the kind that seems to lean closer when you turn your back, whispering the same unbearable suggestion over and over. Whoever did this didn't need luck, they needed time, and the city is giving it to them. The release of Curtis Hall doesn't clear the air, it poisons it, because now the city has watched a suspect come and go, and the empty space afterward feels like proof of something worse, that the monster isn't the obvious one, that the real predator is skilled enough to stand in daylight and look ordinary. Berkeley's streets keep moving, cafes keep pouring coffee, lectures keep happening, but every routine has a new undertone, a bass note of dread, like the whole place is listening for footsteps that don't belong. The flyers fade in the rain and curl at the corners, but Maya's face stays sharp in people's minds, and the longer she's gone the more her absence becomes a presence, a thing that lives with them, rides the bus with them, follows them down dim stairwells. Inside the station, the case file grows into a living creature. It sprawls across desks. It stacks in boxes. It drags detectives into overtime, into marriage arguments, into sleepless nights where they replay grainy footage until it feels like their own eyes are the camera, blinking and failing. They pin new photos to the board and peel old ones off. They redraw maps. They circle and underline and cross out. They hear the same questions from the same reporters and answer with the same hollow phrases because what else can you say when the truth won't come out of hiding? Maya's phone becomes its own mystery. In the first days, they ran the basic checks, last tower ping, last call, last text. Now, weeks in, they go deeper. They subpoena her carrier for detailed records, for every incoming number, for every cell sector handoff, hoping a pattern will flicker. A technician points to a line item that looks like a heartbeat. At 11:12 p.m., the device stops registering, but at 11:38 p.m., there's a single attempted connection, brief, incomplete, like the phone came alive for a second and then choked. Not a call. Not a message. Just a pulse. The tech shrugs and says it could be the device moving through a coverage gap, or someone turning it on and off, or a battery glitch. Detectives don't shrug. They lock onto it like starving men who've seen smoke. 11:38, 26 minutes after silence. That's enough time to move her. Enough time to cross town. Enough time to dump the phone, or to test it, to see if it still talks. Enough time for a killer, or an abductor, to breathe and think and make the next move. They pull records for that attempted connection. It hit a sector near the freeway, close to a corridor of concrete, warehouses, and industrial lots where the city's rhythm changes. Less foot traffic. Fewer witnesses. The kind of place you can park without being noticed if you look like you belong. The detectives drive there at night, not because it will change the past, but because they want to feel it, to let the environment speak in the language criminals understand. The freeway overhead is a constant roar, a steady cover for screams. Sodium lights paint everything in sickly yellow. A chain-link fence hums in the wind. A stray cat slinks between pallets. They find a payphone nearby, one of the last of its kind, and it feels like the city is offering them a relic, a reminder of how easy it used to be to vanish. In 2002, the world is already getting wired, but there are still gaps wide enough to hide a person inside. They check the payphone for calls made around midnight. Nothing useful. They check nearby businesses for cameras. Some have none. Some have broken systems. Some have tapes overwritten. The case keeps doing the same thing. It reaches for a clue and finds a blank space. Then a new report comes in, and it shifts the entire board. A woman in Albany, just north of Berkeley, calls police in the early hours and says she was followed home. She describes the same older dark sedan. She says it stayed behind her for 3 turns, then pulled alongside her near a stop sign, window down, and she saw the driver's face in the glow of a streetlight, a man, maybe in his 30s, clean-cut, calm expression, eyes that looked empty in a way she can't explain. He asked if she needed help. She said no. He smiled and said, "You shouldn't be out alone." Then he drove away slow, like he was savoring her fear. She reported it because she saw Maya's flyer the next day. Because it hit her like a cold hand on the spine, that might have been him. Detectives take her statement, and for the first time in weeks, there's something they can shape. A description. A face. They bring in a sketch artist. The woman sits under harsh lights, describing eyes, cheekbones, the angle of a jaw. She hesitates, corrects herself, closes her eyes, tries to pull the image from the place in her brain where fear filed it away. The artist's pencil moves, quick strokes, building a stranger out of lines. When it's done, the sketch looks like 1,000 men you've seen in grocery stores. Average. Unremarkable. And that's what makes it terrifying. Monsters don't need horns. They need anonymity. They circulate the sketch. They plaster it in break rooms and campus bulletin boards. They show it on local news. Tips flood in. Everyone has seen him. Everyone knows him. Everyone dated him once. Everyone's cousin's friend works with him. 90% are smoke. But in the smoke, something catches. A tipster calls and says the sketch resembles a man named Owen Klein. 34. Works as a night custodian for a private security contractor that services multiple buildings near campus. The caller says Owen drives a dark sedan. The caller says Owen is too interested in missing women stories, always watching the news when they come on, always making comments like he's reading from a script. The caller hesitates, then adds something that makes the operator's throat tighten. Owen once joked, after a news report about an assault, people don't appreciate how easy it is. The detectives pull Owen's record. No felony convictions. A few minor citations. Nothing that would put him in a database like a warning light. They check his employment. He has keys. He has access to buildings. He has legitimate reasons to be out at night. He has what predators love most, cover. They bring him in. Owen shows up in a collared shirt, polite, slightly confused. He smiles like a man who believes in the system. He answers questions with measured calm. He says he's heard about Maya, of course, terrible thing, and he glances at the missing poster on the detective's wall with a look that could be empathy or could be fascination. When asked where he was the night Maya vanished, he says he was working. He gives a timeline. He provides a supervisor's name. He offers up receipts like he's proud of how cooperative he is. His eyes are light brown. His hair is neatly cut. His hands are clean. They ask about the dark sedan. He owns one. He admits it. He says it's an old car, nothing special. When asked if he ever followed women, he laughs lightly as if the concept is absurd. When asked if he ever offered help to someone walking alone, he says he's a nice guy, and the phrase lands in the room like a stone. They take his prints. They take his DNA. They ask for consent to search his vehicle. He agrees. No hesitation. Too easy. In the car, they find the ordinary clutter of a life, receipts, a fast food bag, a work badge, a flashlight. Under the seat, there's a coil of rope, thin, synthetic. Owen says it's for emergency towing. In the trunk, there's duct tape. Owen says it's for repairs. In the glove compartment, there's a box cutter. Owen says it's for opening packages. Every item has an excuse. Every excuse sounds plausible. Nothing is illegal by itself. Everything becomes sinister when you layer it over Maya's absence. They search his apartment. Again, tidy. Again, almost sterile. In a drawer, they find a stack of newspaper clippings, assaults, missing persons, cold cases. Not just Maya. Years of it. Owen shrugs and says he's interested in criminology. He says he wants to be a police officer someday. The detectives exchange a look that doesn't need words. Criminals love the language of the law because it's a shield. They study the rules so they can slip through the seams. In his closet, there's a pair of gloves. In his bathroom, there's bleach. In his kitchen, there's plastic wrap. Ordinary, ordinary, ordinary. The case keeps doing this, forcing them to stare at normal objects until normal starts to feel like camouflage. The lab results take their sweet time, and time is cruel. The community hears, person of interest, and starts building a noose out of rumor. Online forums light up. People post Owen's name. People post his address. People post photos of his car. There are calls for vigilante justice. The police beg for restraint, but restraint is a luxury fear doesn't buy. When the results come back, they are partial. Owen's DNA does not match anything from Maya's backpack. His prints do not match the smeared partial. But his rope, examined under microscope, shares the same composite flex as the filament from the backpack. Not unique. Not definitive. But it's a link, thin as hair, yet strong enough to pull the entire case toward him. Detectives dig into his past. They interview ex-girlfriends. One says he was controlling, jealous, always needing to know where she was. Another says he liked to test her to see if she'd do what he wanted. Another says he had a habit of showing up unannounced, waiting outside her work, smiling like it was romantic. None accuse him of violence that can be proven. But the pattern of control is there, like a bruise under skin. They check his work logs. The night of Myers' disappearance, he clocked in at 9 p.m. He clocked out at 1 a.m. But the logs aren't precise, they rely on a manual system, paper sheets, signatures. A supervisor says Owen was around, but can't account for every minute. Owen's job put him near the service road where the silhouette was caught on camera. His route could have passed the park. He could have driven by the marina. The timeline can fit him if you bend it. The problem is the case is full of people it can fit if you bend it. Then, like a flare in fog, a witness steps forward. A homeless man who sleeps near the industrial corridor, near the sector where Myers' phone pulsed at 11:38, comes to a community center and tells a volunteer he saw something the night she disappeared. He says he saw a dark sedan parked behind a warehouse. He says he heard a woman crying, muffled like she was gagged. He says he saw a man standing near the trunk, looking around, then slamming it shut hard. He didn't call the cops because he doesn't talk to cops. But he saw the sketch on TV and it looked like the guy. He says the man had a distinctive limp. He demonstrates it, dragging one foot slightly. Detectives rush to interview him. They sit him down, offer food, water, respect, anything to keep the story steady. He repeats it. He draws the warehouse location on a map with shaky hands. He insists on the limp. That detail lodges in the detectives' brains like a hook. They check Owen. Does he limp? Not when he walked into the station. But limps can be faked. Or hidden. Or only appear when you're carrying weight. They check Curtis. They check Aaron. They check anyone on the board. They find nothing official. Still, they go to the warehouse. It's an empty building now, a cavern of dust and echo. The owner lets them in with reluctance, irritated at police presence that might spook tenants. The detectives walk the perimeter with flashlights, sweeping corners. Crime techs scrape the floor for residue. They find old stains. They find rust. They find animal droppings. They find a hair caught in a crack near the loading bay, dark, long. They bag it like it's gold. In the lab, the hair yields no root. No DNA. Just keratin. Just another almost. The warehouse becomes a symbol of what this case keeps doing, pointing toward a place that feels right and then refusing to give proof. The detectives return to their cars, shoulders heavy, the city's hum pressing around them, and one of them says quietly, "It's like chasing smoke." Weeks become months. Winter leans in. The bay wind sharpens. Myers' mother's voice changes in interviews, less hopeful, more hollow, as if each plea carves something out of her. Myers' father starts keeping a notebook of tips, writing names and times, trying to do the detective's job because helplessness is unbearable. Candlelight vigils become smaller. People still care, but life keeps stepping forward, and the case is stuck in place. Then, in early spring, another letter arrives. This one is different. This one is addressed directly to the lead detective by name, the spelling correct, the handwriting steadier. Inside, a single Polaroid photo. Grainy. Taken at night. It shows a piece of cloth, dark fabric, caught on a fence, fluttering. Next to it, in the frame, a street sign barely visible, the name of a road near Tilden Park. The note beneath the photo reads, "You're looking in the wrong places." The detective's hands go cold. The room tightens. A Polaroid is intimate, it means someone held a camera and stood in the dark and decided to send a souvenir. It means someone is watching the investigation close enough to know the lead detective's name. It means this isn't just a disappearance, it's a conversation, one-sided, cruel, controlled. They rush to Tilden Park. The park is wide, wooded, full of trails and ravines where sound dies. Search teams flood it, combing through underbrush, checking creek beds, looking for disturbed soil, for fabric, for anything. They find the fence. They find the cloth, still there, damp, snagged. It's a scarf. A woman's scarf. Not Maya's, according to her mother. The fabric is generic. The clue could be real. Or it could be another feint designed to pull resources away from the truth. But the act itself, the sending, changes everything. Now the detectives aren't just hunting, they are being hunted back. Someone is playing with them, and that means the person behind this may be closer than they imagined, close enough to follow the news, close enough to hear whispers, close enough to enjoy the power of steering the search like a puppeteer. They start looking inward. Who had access to the lead detective's name? Reporters? City employees? Volunteers? Anyone at a press conference? The circle is enormous. But paranoia doesn't care about size, it cares about possibility. They re-interview Owen Klein. They ask about cameras. About Polaroids. About Tilden Park. He smiles thinly and says he hasn't been there in years. They ask if he knows the lead detective's name. He says of course, it's on the news. He's right. The detective hates that he's right. They ask why he collects clippings. He says it's a hobby. They ask why he likes the stories. He says he likes the puzzle. The word puzzle lands like a threat because to someone who hurts people, the puzzle isn't about justice, it's about control. They can't hold him. They can't charge him. They can only watch him, and surveillance is expensive, manpower heavy, and painfully imperfect. A tail loses him in traffic one afternoon. A detective curses, punches the steering wheel, and for the first time admits to himself what he never says out loud: the case is slipping into cold territory, into the realm where answers stop arriving and only hauntings remain. And yet, the city doesn't let it die. A professor starts a fund for private investigation. A student group keeps the flyers updated, replacing the weathered ones with fresh prints. A local radio host dedicates a weekly segment to Maya's case, keeping her name in the air like a beacon. And somewhere in that renewed noise, a small detail surfaces, quiet, almost accidental, the kind of detail that can change everything if you catch it at the right angle. A clerk at a hardware store calls the tip line. He says he remembers a man buying composite line, bright synthetic rope, around the time Maya disappeared. The man bought 2 spools, paid in cash, and asked if it was strong enough to hold weight. The clerk didn't think much of it at the time, but when he saw the news about rope fibers, he remembered. He remembered because the man's hand shook when he took the change. He remembered because the man smelled strongly of bleach. The detectives ask for a description. The clerk pauses, squints at memory. He says the man was average height, clean-cut, calm face. He says the man had light brown eyes. And the room goes silent again, because the sketch on the board, still taped at eye level, stares back with light brown eyes, and the name beneath it, the name they can't prove but can't shake, feels suddenly heavier than it did before: Owen Klein. But remembering is not evidence. A cash sale leaves no paper trail. A memory is a fragile thing, susceptible to suggestion, to news, to fear. The detectives know it. The killer, if there is a killer, knows it too. That's why he can hide behind normalcy, behind the sheer volume of ordinary men with ordinary faces moving through ordinary stores. The case keeps tightening like a knot, and the rope in evidence bags, the rope in closets, the rope in trunks, becomes a metaphor for the entire investigation, strands of possibility twisting together, pulling, constricting, but never snapping into a clear, undeniable truth. And somewhere in Barclay's late-night silence, in the gaps between patrol car passes, the person who knows what happened to Maya keeps breathing, keeps walking, keeps blending in, while the city holds its own breath, waiting for the moment the story finally stops being a mystery and becomes a name and feeling, with every passing day, that the name might never come. The longer a case stays open, the more it starts to behave like weather, shifting, unpredictable, settling into people's bones until they stop noticing the ache, until the ache becomes normal. Barkley learns to live with the vacancy, the way you learn to live with a sky you didn't ask for. The posters keep getting replaced, fresh ink over old disper, but the eyes on the paper never blink, never age, never move forward the way everyone else has to. In the station, the detectives stop calling it the missing student and start calling it Vance, one word that carries the weight of a whole room that never closes, a file that refuses to go into storage because the second you box it up, it feels like you're burying her. They build timelines so dense they look like circuitry, and they keep coming back to the same choke points, the walk home, the silhouette by the service road, the phone's final pulse near the freeway, the backpack placed like a prop, the letter that tasted like marina air even through paper. Those details become a ritual. Every new lead gets measured against them. Every suspect gets pressed into that mold, and every time the mold doesn't hold, frustration turns to suspicion turns to exhaustion. It's not just that the truth is hidden, it's that the truth might be simple and they are drowning in complication, or the truth might be monstrous and they are standing too close to see its shape. So they widen the net again, but not with random knocks now. Now it's strategy. Now it's pattern. They start with the letters. The first, Oakland postmark, stop looking, the water keeps secrets. The second, addressed to the lead detective by name, Polaroid, Tilden Park, you're looking in the wrong places. Two communications, two different textures, yet both designed to push. The handwriting analysis unit takes high-resolution images, measures slant, pressure, spacing, the little tremors that betray age or stress. The analyst points to certain strokes, hard downstrokes, controlled loops, and says the same hand could have written both, but the second letter shows more confidence. Not proof. An opinion. But it's enough to push the detectives toward a new, sickening thought: whoever sent them is getting bolder. They track the Polaroid paper itself, the kind of brand sold in certain stores, the kind that isn't everywhere, the kind that leaves a footprint if you can find where it came from. They call photoshops. They call big box retailers. They check receipts where they can. They get nowhere, because a predator who pays in cash is a ghost in the ledger. Still, the act of searching changes the case's posture. It makes the detectives feel less like victims of the mystery and more like hunters again, and that matters, because hope is a fuel too. Then an evidence tech notices something that was always there, hiding in plain sight. The Polaroid's edge has a faint indentation, a crease, as if it had been stored in a wallet or pressed under a hard object. A wallet. And suddenly the missing wallet from Maya's purse becomes louder. If the abductor kept her wallet, trophy, control, identity theft, he could have used it to carry that Polaroid, to keep it close, to feel the weight of the secret in his pocket like a warm stone. They pull records for attempted transactions on Maya's accounts. There were none, which is its own clue. An opportunistic thief would use the cards. A predator who wants control would keep them unused, pristine, not for money but for possession. That shifts their focus. This isn't about profit. This is about power. They reopen the question of who could move through Barkley at night with minimal scrutiny. Security. Maintenance. Delivery drivers. Campus staff. People with reasons to be on roads at midnight. People whose presence doesn't trigger a call. Owen Klein sits inside that category like a thorn. So does Aaron Pike in a different way, an anonymous neighbor, unremarkable, the kind of person no one memorizes. The detectives split their resources. One team quietly rechecks Owen's timeline, another team watches Aaron more closely. Aaron's routines are boring, which makes them terrifying. He wakes, he goes to work, he returns, he shops, he sits at a cafe with a laptop, he disappears into his apartment. He doesn't meet anyone. He doesn't party. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He lives like a man who doesn't want witnesses. The surveillance team notes small things: he takes trash out at odd hours, he seems to overclean his car, he drives without music, windows up, eyes forward. None of it is illegal. All of it feels like the edge of something. One night, 2 months after Maya vanished, Aaron drives out of Berkeley at 12:40 a.m. The tail follows at a careful distance, headlights dimmed, breath held. He takes the freeway, heads north, then exits toward a darker web of roads. The tail calls it in. More units shift. A decision gets made in the quiet language of procedure: follow, don't spook him. The night stretches. Fog thickens. Aaron's taillights blur into red smears in the mist. He pulls into a parking lot by a closed recreational area, Tilden Park, near where the scarf was found. The surveillance team's stomachs tighten. Aaron sits in the car for a long minute, hands on the wheel. Then he gets out. He walks toward the trees with a flashlight, not sweeping like someone searching for lost keys, but moving as if he knows exactly where he's going. The detectives watch him disappear into blackness between trunks, and the urge to rush in is almost physical. They hold. They wait. They listen to the radio hiss, to their own pulse, to the distant hum of the city that doesn't know what's unfolding in its shadowed spine. Minutes pass. 10. 15. Then a faint light appears deeper in the trees, bobbing. Aaron stops. He bends. He digs, hands moving fast, practiced, like someone who has done this before. The detectives can't see what he's doing, only the gesture of it, the shape of a man kneeling at midnight in the woods. A choice gets made without words: move in. Uniformed officers approach first, lights off until the last moment. Police! The shout cracks the night like glass. Aaron jolts, whips around, flashlight beam slicing across faces. His eyes go wide, and for a fraction of a second, there's something in his expression that isn't surprise, it's fury, the look of someone whose private ritual has been invaded. Then it snaps back to confusion. What are you doing? He stammers. I'm just... They detain him. They ask what he's doing out here. He says he's hiking. At 1:10 a.m. In fog. In a closed area. He changes it to stargazing, then realizes there are no stars. He changes it again to thinking. His story collapses in on itself like a bad tent. They secure the spot where he was digging. Crime scene tape in the woods looks absurd, like theater, but nobody laughs. They find a shallow hole, fresh earth piled beside it. Inside, wrapped in plastic, is a small object, a woman's wallet. Maya's wallet. For one electrified moment, everything stops. The air feels thinner. The detectives stare at it like it might bite. One of them whispers Maya's name without meaning to. Another calls for gloves, evidence bags, photos, chain of custody. Aaron stands cuffed nearby, breathing hard, eyes flicking toward the hole and away again. He says, "That's not mine." He says it too fast. He says it too often. He starts to shake as if the cold finally reached him. They open the wallet in the presence of cameras and gloves and protocol that barely holds back the raw human urgency. Inside are her cards. Her student ID. Her driver's license. Her photo looking back from laminate like it knows. Everything the detectives said a predator might keep as a trophy is here, buried like a secret seed. But there's no cash. No phone. No keys. And the wallet looks clean. Too clean. Not damp. Not dirty. Not degraded by months underground. The plastic wrap protected it, yes, but not that well. The edges are crisp. The leather isn't swollen. It looks like it was buried recently. Which means one of two things, and both are nightmare fuel: Aaron buried it tonight, after keeping it somewhere else, or Aaron buried it tonight because someone else gave it to him, or because he found it, or because he's being used. The detectives don't have time to savor theories. The machine of the law starts turning, and it demands hard parts. They transport Aaron. They search his car under warrant now, not consent. They find mud on the floor mats. They find a small folding knife. They find zip ties in a side compartment. Aaron says they are for cables. They find a disposable camera in the glove box, unopened. Aaron says it's old. They find a Polaroid photo in his wallet, the scarf on the fence near Tilden Park. The second letter's photo. The room in the station goes silent in a way that feels like a body going into shock. It's not proof of murder. It's not proof of abduction. But it is proof of contact with the taunt, proof of a link between Aaron and the communication that steered the case. The lead detective feels the ground shift under his feet. He looks at Aaron through the glass, this tidy man with the calm voice and the too-neat apartment, and he thinks, you are either the person we've been chasing, or you're the person being used by him, and I don't know which is worse. Aaron's interview stretches for hours. He denies everything, then admits small things, then retracts them, then pivots to anger. He says he's being harassed. He says he found the wallet in the street weeks ago and didn't know what to do. He says he buried it because he panicked. He says he kept the Polaroid because he found it near campus. He offers explanations like a man tossing handfuls of sand at a fire, hoping something will smother it. The detectives push. Why bury it in Tilden Park? Why return at midnight? Why wrap it? Why keep a photo tied to the case? Aaron's answers wobble. He starts asking for a lawyer. The room tightens again, because the moment someone says that word, the interview becomes a chess game and the clock starts pounding louder. The DA reviews what they have. A wallet buried by a man who inserted himself into the case early. A Polaroid linked to a taunt. Rope similar to a fiber found on Myers' backpack. Zip ties. Odd behavior. It's a mosaic that suggests guilt, but the law wants the single tile that says yes. They charge him with evidence tampering and obstruction. They cannot charge him with Myers' abduction. Not yet. They cannot hold him indefinitely without the heavier proof. The detective feels rage rise like bile. He has the shape of the monster in his hands and the monster keeps slipping through the fingers of legal necessity. The news breaks, and the city erupts. Break-in missing student case, wallet found buried in park, neighbor detained. Cameras swarm the station. Myers' parents are rushed into a private room and shown the wallet. Her mother collapses into tears so sharp it sounds like laughter. Her father stares at the plastic-wrapped leather like it's a grenade. He asks one question that no one can answer, where is she? Searches restart with new ferocity. If the wallet was buried, maybe the rest is nearby. Teams comb the park again, digging, probing, sifting. Cadaver dogs are brought in, their noses sweeping over earth, their bodies language. They alert at 2 spots, both shallow, both close to the wallet site. The crews dig with trembling hands, and in the holes they find trash. Old cans. A buried torp. Animal remains. False positives, maybe, or scent drift. But each alert is a punch to the gut, because it means the dogs smelled something that suggested death, and in a case like this, you learn to respect what animals tell you even when humans can't translate it into evidence. Meanwhile, the defense for Aaron Pike moves fast. They argue the wallet proves nothing about Myers' fate. They argue the police are desperate. They argue the surveillance was invasive. They argue the rope is common, the zip ties are common, the photo is meaningless. They paint Aaron as a loner scapegoat caught in a storm he didn't create. And the worst part, the part that makes the detective's teeth grind, is that some of it sticks. Because common is the refuge of the guilty and the curse of the investigator. Aaron posts bail. He walks out of the station in a jacket zipped to his chin, face pale in the flash of cameras. Reporters shout questions. Did you abduct Maya? Where did you get the wallet? Did you send the letters? He doesn't answer. He looks straight ahead, jaw clenched, and steps into a waiting car. The crowd outside screams at him, and in that scream is a desperate belief that they have found the villain. It's easier to hate a man you can see than to fear an invisible one. But the detectives don't celebrate. They don't even breathe easier. Because that night, the lead detective returns home and finds an envelope wedged in his mailbox like a finger. No stamp. No postmark. Hand-delivered. Inside is a single line, printed in block letters, calm as a pulse, you picked the wrong shadow. And the detective stands in his doorway, staring at that sentence while his house sits warm behind him, safe for now, and he understands with a sick clarity that whoever is behind this can walk up to his home, can touch his life, can whisper through paper without leaving a trace. The case hasn't tightened around the truth, it's tightened around a game, and the player just proved he can reach anywhere. Outside, Barclay's streetlights buzz. A car passes slowly. Somewhere a dog barks once, then goes quiet. And the city, still aching, still waiting, feels that old fear creep back in, heavier now, because the wallet in the dirt wasn't closure, it was bait, and someone out there is confident enough to throw bait and watch what happens while Maya Vance remains missing, unresolved, and slipping further into the cold, into the kind of mystery that doesn't just haunt a family, but stains an entire city with the question it can't outrun. If the wrong shadow is in hand, then where is the right one hiding? And how close is it standing, right now, in the dark? The envelope with no stamp doesn't just land in a mailbox, it lands in a mind, and once it's there it keeps unfolding, like paper turning into a blade. You picked the wrong shadow. The sentence follows the lead detective through his house, through the click of locks, through the quiet sip of water he can't taste, through the moment he stands in the dark and listens for a sound that doesn't belong. He doesn't sleep. He watches the curtains. He watches the street light glow on the pavement like a pale spotlight waiting for an actor to step into frame. And somewhere in Barclay, someone is smiling at the fact that it worked, that a single line of ink can turn a seasoned investigator into a man who flinches at the creak of his own floorboards. By morning, the case shifts again, not because of new evidence but because of a new kind of urgency. If the note was hand-delivered, then the sender was close enough to touch the detective's life, close enough to choose the mailbox, the time, the angle, the risk. That means the sender is either reckless or confident, and confidence is the more dangerous option. The task force meets under fluorescent light that makes everyone look older. They talk about surveillance on the detective's house. They talk about mailboxes, cameras, neighbors, patrol patterns. They talk about suspects who know where he lives. They talk about the list of people who could have gotten his address. The list is so large it feels like an insult. Voters' lists. DMV records. Old phone books. Anyone with a keyboard and patience. The note could be from the abductor, or from a crank, or from someone who wants to inject chaos into a case already drowning in it. But the timing is too perfect. Aaron Pike is out on bail, walking free with the community's hatred blazing behind him like a tail, and the detectives are forced to admit a bitter possibility, that Aaron isn't the predator, just a pawn, and whoever is behind Maya's disappearance is now correcting the investigator's trajectory the way a teacher slaps a student's hand away from the wrong answer. The insult isn't just that Maya is still gone, it's that someone out there believes he can steer the entire city's attention with a few objects and words. So they go back to the wallet. They place it on the table like it's sacred. They study the plastic wrap, the folds, the tape. The crime lab had already tested it, but now they test again, because desperation makes you suspicious of your own procedures. They look for hairs caught under tape edges. They look for skin cells trapped in adhesive. They look for the faintest ridge of a fingerprint pressed into plastic. They apply chemical fuming, alternate light sources, microscopes. Most of the wrap is sterile, too sterile, like it was handled with gloves. But on the inside fold, where the wrap creased, they catch something, a faint smear that isn't print, isn't DNA, but is a residue, a trace of oil that suggests contact with a specific kind of lubricant, industrial grade, often used in mechanical work. It's not a name. But it's a direction. They cross-reference purchases of that lubricant near Barclay. That doesn't help, it's everywhere. Auto shops. Hardware stores. Maintenance rooms. It narrows nothing. Then a tech mentions something else, the wrap itself isn't typical kitchen plastic. It's thicker, more durable, the kind used for packaging parts, often found in shipping departments and warehouses. Again, not unique. Again, not a fingerprint. But it shifts the image in the detective's head, someone who handles equipment, someone who moves between industrial and campus spaces, someone with access to materials that look ordinary until you see them as tools. The detectives put Aaron Pike back under the microscope anyway, because you can't ignore a man caught digging up Maya's wallet in the woods at 1 a.m. His defense attorney insists Aaron found the wallet on the sidewalk weeks earlier, panicked, buried it, returned to retrieve it because he wanted to do the right thing. That story has the stench of improvisation. And yet, improvisation can be real. Fear makes people do strange, stupid things. The trouble is, guilt does too. They dig into Aaron's digital life. Computers. Emails. Search history. In 2002, it's messier than today, but there are still traces. His browser history includes news pages about Maya. Not shocking. His email includes posts to online forums about local crime, speculation threads, amateur sleuth boards. More concerning. Then they find a draft email saved but never sent, dated a week after Maya vanished. It's addressed to no one, subject line blank, body text only one sentence, I can't stop thinking about the water. The phrasing hits like a fist because it echoes the Oakland letter, the water keeps secrets. Aaron claims he wrote it because he was reading the news and couldn't sleep. He claims it's coincidence. Coincidence again, that slippery word. The detectives stare at him through interrogation glass and feel the case tilting. If Aaron is the sender, he is taunting them. If Aaron is not the sender, then someone else put those words in the air and Aaron breathed them in. They hold him on the obstruction charges as long as they can. They push for stricter bail conditions. The judge grants limited restrictions but not enough to cage him. Aaron walks out again, and the cameras catch him glancing sideways, eye scanning, not just for reporters but for someone else, someone he expects to be there. The detective watches that footage later and rewinds it 5 times, because expectation is a tell, and that glance looks like a man looking for his handler. The task force decides to bait the baiter. They leak information. Not to the public exactly, carefully, selectively, like feeding a fish with a hook inside. A rumor that they found something in the park soil. A rumor that they recovered a phone near the marina. A rumor that they're closing in on a new suspect. They want the note writer to react, to correct them again, to send another message, to reveal his proximity and his hunger for control. It's a dirty tactic, but this case isn't clean. Clean died the night Maya vanished. Days pass. No message. Then the radio host who kept Maya's story alive gets a call on air, and the entire city feels its blood turn cold as they listen. The host is mid-sentence, talking about new search efforts, when a voice cuts in, male, calm, distorted slightly as if speaking through cloth. The voice says, "You people don't know anything." The host freezes, tries to keep composure, asks who's calling. The voice says, "Stop saying her name like you own it." The host asks if he knows where Maya is. The voice laughs softly, a low sound like a door closing. "You're looking in the wrong places," the caller says, and then adds, almost gently, "She doesn't walk anymore." The line goes dead. For a heartbeat, the city is silent. Then the phones light up like fireworks, listeners calling the station, calling police, calling each other. The broadcast is recorded. The tape is rushed to detectives. Audio technicians isolate frequencies, clean noise, try to pull a voice print. In 2002, the science is crude. The caller's voice is altered. The breath patterns are masked. Still, the technician points to one thing, a faint mechanical hum in the background, steady, like a compressor or an industrial fan. Something you'd hear in a maintenance room, a warehouse, a back shop. The detective's mind snapped to the same dark possibilities: campus maintenance, security, industrial corridors, shipping rooms, places with the right kind of wrap, the right kind of lubricant, the right kind of noise. They also note something else, the phrasing. "You're looking in the wrong places." The same sentence from the Polaroid note. The same cadence. The same arrogance. The caller isn't just someone with information, he's someone performing, rehearsed, enjoying the theater of it. They search the station's call logs, trace what they can. The call came through a payphone. Of course. A payphone near a strip of industrial businesses close to the freeway sector where Maya's phone pulsed at 11:38. The city's old skeleton keeps offering hiding places. Detectives rush to the location anyway. They photograph the payphone. They dust it. They find prints, partial, smudged, layered from hundreds of hands. Nothing clean. They canvass businesses for cameras. One loading dock has a camera pointing down the alley. The tape is grainy, but it captures a figure approaching the payphone around the time of the call. Hoodie. Average build. He pauses, makes the call, then walks away and disappears between buildings. They enhance the footage until the pixels look like abstract art. No face. No license plate. No miracle. But the hook has been bitten. The note writer, if it's him, can't stay quiet when the city talks about Maya. He can't resist the urge to correct, to shame, to dominate. That compulsion is something the behavioral specialists latch onto like a lifeline. They say he likely follows media coverage obsessively. He likely lives close enough to respond quickly. He likely has a routine that puts him near payphones, near industrial noise, near late-night movement. They propose a trap: watch payphones during future broadcasts about the case. Stake them out. Use unmarked cars. Use decoy broadcasts, fake updates designed to provoke him. The police set it up. They pick 3 payphones in likely zones: industrial corridor, near marina, near campus edge. They assign teams. They tell the radio host to announce, on a specific day, at a specific hour, that new evidence has surfaced pointing toward a suspect, and that police urge anyone with information to come forward. It's bait wrapped in righteous language. The hour comes. The host speaks. The city listens. In unmarked cars, detectives watch payphones like they are altars where the devil might kneel. Minutes tick. 20. 30. Then, at the second payphone, a dark sedan slows, headlights off until the last second, then glides into a spot as if it belongs. The driver stays inside for a moment, scanning. A detective's fingers tighten on binoculars. The car is older, dark, familiar in its shape, like the blur from the service road footage grown into flesh. The driver steps out. Average height. Clean-cut silhouette. Hoodie pulled up. He walks with a slight drag in one foot, subtle, but there, the limp the homeless witness mentioned. He approaches the payphone, pauses, looks around again, then lifts the receiver. The detective's radio crackles. We have him. They wait for confirmation, for the moment the call connects, for the moment the voice begins to speak so they can tie sound to body. But the man doesn't speak. He holds the receiver to his ear, listens, and then, like an animal sensing a trap, he stiffens. His head turns sharply toward the unmarked cars. Not directly, but close, like he can smell the surveillance in the air. He hangs up without dialing. He walks back to the sedan, faster now. The detectives surge, engines starting, doors opening, the moment turning from stakeout to chase in the blink of a heartbeat. The sedan peels out. Tires squeal. The dark car rockets down the alley, weaving between dumpsters, headlights still off, using the darkness like camouflage. The unmarked cars follow, sirens off at first, then on as the chase hits a main road. It's midnight again, Barclay's favorite hour for nightmares. The sedan runs a red light, misses a pedestrian by inches, and the pedestrian's scream is swallowed by engine roar. The detectives call it in, units converge, but the sedan knows the streets like a rat knows drains. It darts onto an on-ramp, merges into freeway traffic, then exits suddenly into Oakland, vanishing into a maze of side streets where tail lights dissolve in fog. The chase ends with the taste of failure. They backtrack, search likely hideouts, scan parking lots, check alleys. Nothing. The sedan is gone. The driver is gone. But the city has just witnessed something it can't unsee, confirmation that someone out there is watching, responding, moving, and that someone is smart enough to sniff out a trap before it snaps. Still, the chase leaves debris, and debris can talk. At the payphone, crime techs find a discarded glove in a trash bin nearby. Thin latex, turned inside out as if stripped off quickly. They bag it. They treat it like the Holy Grail. In the lab, there's sweat inside, microscopic skin cells trapped in the latex's porous memory. They run it. And for the first time in months, the case gets a result that isn't a shrug. A partial DNA profile. Not enough for a clean match in 2002. Not enough to point to a single name. But enough to store. Enough to hold onto for the future. Enough to build a bridge to a day when science might catch up. The lead detective stares at the lab report like it's a promise and a curse. He feels the case stretching across time now, reaching beyond the present into some unknown future where a new test, a new database, a new technology might finally put a name to that glove. He hears the caller's words again, she doesn't walk anymore, and he feels a rage so sharp it could cut metal. Meanwhile, Maya's parents hear about the chase and think it means progress. They cling to it. They ask, "Did you see his face?" The detective says no. He watches Maya's mother's eyes dim a fraction. He watches her father's hands clench into fists that don't know what to hit. He thinks about the note, "You picked the wrong shadow." He thinks about the dark sedan's driver who sensed the trap and fled. He thinks about the wallet buried fresh, the Polaroid carried close, the voice calling in from a payphone like it was 1978 and not 2002. And in the quiet aftermath, as the city returns to its uneasy routines, as the case file fattens again, the detective understands something that makes his stomach drop. The person behind this, whether Aaron Pike or someone standing above him like a puppeteer, isn't just hiding. He's practicing. He's adapting. He's learning the police the way the police are trying to learn him. He can move through Berkeley at night with purpose. He can stage evidence, deliver notes, call on air, test payphones, and vanish into traffic. And every time he succeeds, the city gives him what he craves most, proof that he can do it again. The next morning, the radio host receives another envelope at his station. No stamp. No return address. Inside is a strip of Polaroid film, blank, undeveloped, and a note, "Stop feeding them hope." It isn't signed. It doesn't need to be. The message is clear, the predator isn't just taunting police now, he's policing the story itself, guarding the narrative like it belongs to him. And somewhere, out in the fog-shrouded streets where streetlights buzz and payphones still stand like relics waiting to be used, the dark sedan moves again, silent, patient, with a driver who knows the city's blind spots by heart, and a secret that keeps tightening its grip on Berkeley, not because the case is solved, not because the truth is close, but because the truth is alive, watching, and still deciding what it wants the world to know. Fog doesn't just roll in over the bay in this city, it settles into the seams, into the cracks between streetlights, into the spaces where people don't look because looking too long makes you imagine things. After the blank Polaroid strip arrives at the radio station, the building feels different, as if the air itself has been touched by a stranger's hand, and every producer who walks past the mailroom starts glancing down like the floor might open. The host tries to keep his voice steady on air, tries to sound like a man who is in control of his own story, but you can hear the edge in the way he breathes between sentences, the way he slows down as if he's afraid speed might invite another interruption. The city hears it too. The city learns a new kind of silence, one where people stop talking not because they've run out of words, but because they've realized words might summon someone listening. Maya Vance has been missing long enough that her name now travels in two forms, the name you say in daylight, and the name you whisper when you're alone at night. Her parents still sit at the kitchen table with the same stack of flyers, but the paper has changed. It's thicker now, the kind meant to last, laminated like a wound you can't let scab. Her mother folds the same corner of a poster over and over when she's nervous, worrying it like a rosary bead. Her father's hands are roughened by days spent hanging them on poles, and he keeps a small jar of pushpins in his coat pocket like he might need them at any moment, like he might need to pin her back into the world. In the police building, the case has stopped being a single file and become a gravitational force. It pulls in hours. It pulls in overtime. It pulls in new names that show up on a board and then fade away like chalk in rain. Every detective on the team has a version of Maya in their head now, the photo on the flyer, the student ID in the wallet, the half-suggested shape of her in a grainy video frame. They argue over details with a ferocity that surprises even them, because when the truth won't show itself, details become religion. And then, one morning, the city wakes to another headline, and the blood runs cold in every kitchen where the newspaper hits the table. Second woman vanishes, same night route, same silence. Not Maya. Someone else. A waitress named Lena Hart, 26, last seen leaving a late shift, walking the short distance from her bus stop to her apartment. Her roommate reports she never came home. Her phone stops transmitting within a narrow window. There's no sign of forced entry. No screaming reported. Just the same awful absence, clean and brutal, as if the city has a trapdoor that opens only for certain women, only at certain hours. The investigators don't have the luxury of denying patterns anymore. They feel it in their bones. This isn't a single disappearance, it's a shape moving through the dark, repeating itself. The community feels it too. Candlelight vigils multiply, not because people have more hope, but because they have more fear, and fear is a powerful organizer. Two faces stare out from posters now, and when you see them side by side, the similarities are a knife, similar age, similar build, both walking alone, both swallowed without a sound. Lena's family is different from Maya's, louder in grief, angrier in public. Her brother stands outside the station and demands answers with a voice that cracks into raw thunder. "You let this happen again," he shouts, and the cameras catch the moment one detective flinches because some part of him believes it. It isn't fair, but it isn't wrong either. A city that can't stop one disappearance becomes a city that begins to expect another. Inside the task force room, someone pulls out a map and pins 2 points with red markers, Maya's last known area, Lena's. The points aren't identical, but they are close enough to make the hairs on your arms lift. A corridor. A comfort zone. A place where an unseen person knows which streets stay empty, which alleys stay dark, which corners don't have eyes. The investigators don't speak for a moment, they just stare. Because the most terrifying possibility isn't that the predator is brilliant. It's that the predator is ordinary and simply persistent, exploiting a city's blind spots the way water exploits cracks in stone. Lena's case yields something Maya's did not, a witness who saw the ending, or at least the shape of it. A delivery driver reports seeing a woman on the sidewalk speaking to a man near a parked car. The man wasn't dragging her, wasn't shouting, wasn't threatening. He was calm. She looked tense, but not panicked, like someone trying to be polite while her instincts scream. The driver remembers the detail that makes everyone's stomach tighten. The man held something out in his hand, a small rectangle, like an ID badge, and he gestured toward the car as if offering help, as if he belonged to some authority that made her hesitate. The driver didn't intervene because he didn't see a crime. He saw a conversation. That's how predators survive, inside the thin skin of normal interaction. An ID badge. Or something like it. A prop. A mask. The detectives remember Maya's case, keys missing, wallet missing, phone missing, objects used like bait. They remember how a shadow can look like safety when it wears the right costume. They begin pulling lists again, not with certainty but with grim patience. Anyone with uniforms, anyone with access, anyone who could plausibly approach a woman at night without triggering immediate alarm. The list is endless, and that's the point. The predator's greatest weapon isn't strength, it's the city's assumption that authority is safe. The radio host returns to the air and speaks Lena's name, and the city listens with a tight throat, waiting for the caller who once cut through the broadcast like a blade. The line stays quiet. No voice. No laugh. No taunt. And that silence is its own message, because it suggests something colder. The predator doesn't need to talk anymore. He's doing his speaking in vanishings now. Then something small, almost stupid, occurs, something that would have been ignored if the city wasn't already raw. A bus driver calls in a report that on several nights over the past month, he's noticed the same older sedan parked near a stop at the edge of campus, engine idling, lights off. It never picks anyone up. It never moves when the bus arrives. It just sits, as if it's waiting for someone who never comes. The driver says he didn't report it earlier because he sees strange cars all the time, but now, with 2 women missing, the memory turns acidic. Investigators hear this and feel the case sharpen. A car that waits is a car that hunts. But the car, like everything else, is a silhouette unless you can give it a name. They look for a plate. The driver can't provide it. He offers a guess that collapses under scrutiny. Memory is not a camera, it's a mirror warped by emotion. Still, the detail threads itself into the tapestry, waiting, watching, choosing. Maya's parents hear about Lena and react in opposite directions. Maya's mother breaks down, because the idea of another family entering this nightmare feels like the world doubling its cruelty. Maya's father goes rigid, because a second disappearance is also a second chance for the truth to slip, for a mistake to be made, for a crack to appear in the predator's armor. He doesn't say it like that, he isn't a detective, but you can see it in the way his jaw sets, a renewed ferocity that is almost frightening, because it's what grief turns into when it refuses to lie down. As weeks pass, the city's mood becomes a permanent low hum of alarm. People start pairing up for short walks that used to be solitary. Businesses change closing procedures. A university sends out statements with polished words that can't polish away fear. And in quiet kitchens, parents tell daughters not to trust anyone, not even someone who looks official, not even someone who smiles. That advice sticks in the air like smoke. It changes the way people see strangers. It changes the way people see uniforms. It changes the city. Then, in the middle of a dull Tuesday, a package arrives at Maya's family's home. Not at the station. Not at the radio station. At the family's home, where grief is already sleeping on the couch and eating at the table and filling every corner like dust. The package is small, wrapped in brown paper, tied with twine. No stamp. No return address. Her mother's hands shake so badly she can barely hold it. Her father wants to throw it into the yard and call the police. Her mother wants to open it because hope is an addiction, and the mind will crawl through glass to get another hit of it. They call detectives. The detectives arrive. Gloves. Caution. The room thick with dread. The twine is cut. The paper peeled back. Inside is a shoe. A woman's shoe, scuffed, the sole worn, the fabric dark. Maya's mother recognizes it instantly and makes a sound that isn't a sob, isn't a scream, but something in between, a noise of pure animal recognition, like a mother deer hearing the crack of a rifle. The detectives don't let her touch it. They bag it like a relic. They photograph it. They ask where it came from, as if anyone in the room could answer. Her father stares at it, face drained of color, and whispers, "He knows where we live." The package does more than deliver an object. It delivers a truth: the predator is close enough to put his hand on the family's doorstep and still walk away. He wants them to know that. He wants them to feel the same powerlessness he felt, if he felt anything at all, when he took Maya. And he wants the city to understand that the case isn't just unsolved, it's being managed, curated, fed to them in pieces. The shoe is examined. It has dirt on the tread, fine grit, a mix of sand and tiny pale flecks that could be crushed shell. Coastal. The lab finds a smear of something on the inside edge, brownish, old, not fresh. They test it. It's biological, but degraded. It could be blood. It could be something else. The results are inconclusive. Inconclusive becomes the word that haunts this case like a curse. But the dirt matters. The grit matters. It suggests proximity to the water again, marina, shoreline, the edges of places where things get dropped and never noticed. The detectives think of the anonymous tip long ago, the note about water keeping secrets, the way the city's drains and shorelines feel like mouths. They don't announce their thoughts to the public. They hold them close, because now they understand something else: the predator feeds on attention, but he also feeds on steering. He wants reactions. He wants movements. He wants to shape the hunt. The radio host hears about the shoe and fights with producers who want him to break the story immediately. He insists on caution. He is no longer just a narrator, he is a target, and he knows that every word might be a bell rung into the darkness. But the story leaks anyway. It always leaks. Someone tells a friend. A friend tells a cousin. A cousin posts online. The city's bloodstream carries the rumor faster than any official statement. And when the story hits the air, the fear shifts into a new gear. The shoe makes it real. A missing person can still be imagined alive. A shoe on a table is harder to romanticize. It whispers the possibility that Maya is no longer somewhere waiting. It whispers what the caller once said: she doesn't walk anymore. The detectives don't say those words, but you see them in the way they move now, faster, sharper, with an urgency that feels like guilt. They attempt to connect the shoe to Lena. It doesn't match her. Different size. Different brand. Which means the predator is choosing what to reveal and when, and he is doing it with calculated cruelty, throwing the case forward and then yanking it back. Maya's mother begins sleeping with the light on. Maya's father begins standing at the window at night, watching the street, seeing every passing car as a potential threat. Their home, once safe, becomes another scene. Another place touched by the case. And still, the city doesn't have Maya. The shoe sits in an evidence bag while the detectives stare at it through plastic, and one of them thinks of the missing wallet buried too neatly, the notes that appeared without postage, the voice that once cut into the radio like it owned the airwaves. He thinks of Lena Hart's disappearance echoing the same silence. He thinks of the predator's ability to approach a woman and look like help. He thinks of how easily a stranger can carry a mask in his pocket. Outside, Barclay's streets continue to glow under buzzing lamps. People continue to go home. People continue to look over their shoulders. Somewhere, an older sedan idles at the edge of a quiet road, lights off, patient as an animal in tall grass. Somewhere, a man's hands, clean, ordinary hands, fold paper, tie twine, touch a doorstep, and then slide back into the night, leaving behind a city that can't breathe and two families who now understand the deepest horror of an unsolved case. It doesn't end when the person disappears, it ends when the one who took them finally decides to stop talking, stop leaving pieces, stop feeding the world just enough to keep it hungry.